Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. My name is Tom Tobin, president of the club, and we're thrilled to have you join us today. This meeting broadcast is available on HCTV as well as our Rotary of Hudson YouTube channel. Our club meets weekly at Laurel Lake for breakfast on Wednesday mornings from 7:15 to 8:30. Come out and join us for a meeting. We would love to have you as a guest. To learn more about Rotary, our club, and the impact we're having on our local community and the world, visit our website, rotaryhudson.org. Enjoy the meeting today and help us share the message that Rotary connects the world.
And now will you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and the four-way test? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the four-way test of the things that we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And I believe we are going to have a song this morning if James is able to accomplish that. James?
Thank you, Andy. And to lead us in song, Dick Pearsall.
I feel like a conductor then, right?
Yeah.
I decided today we should sing our Star Spangled Banner. And I thought, boy, this is going to be something. Fortunately, we've got the words. The other important thing is it has to start on E flat or you can't sing the top notes. So I have to take that from my pitch pipe. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glared, the bombs were seen in air, gave proof to the night, and our flag was still. Here we go now. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. That was great.
Now, wasn't that great? I loved it. How awesome. Thank you.
So is everybody able to hear that one?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Super, super. Do you remember that when we first started doing our Zoom meetings, we would highlight a local Hudson business that was still open, primarily restaurants that were serving takeout, who had supported us in previous galas. Well, today, we're going to beat that one better. Kate Schlotterman has joined us today from the Learned Owl, and she's going to give us just a brief overview of what life's going to be like when they open their doors, because it's going to be different. Kate, could you unmute yourself?
Good morning, Marilyn and fellow Rotarians. Thank you all for having me here this morning. It is just thrilling to see you all. I haven't been to a morning Rotary meeting since last fall, and I really miss everyone, so it's nice to see you. Say that things are a little bit different is putting it pretty mildly. We've had our doors closed since mid-March, and we've been doing online and sales and curbside pickup and phone sales. We've been very fortunate with the support of the community. To give you a little idea of how our online sales changed, we have had a website and done online sales for a number of years now, probably at least 10 to 15 years. Our average big month was December last year, and we did $500 in sales. As of April and May, we were averaging about 3,500 to 4,000 a week. So that's kind of the difference of what we were doing. We essentially became a shipping center, which was a whole different way of looking at the store. My staff has been wonderful through all of this, of following CDC guidelines and Summit County Health. They've come in when they can, stayed home when they can. I've had some people working at home. It's been a whole different atmosphere, but everybody's been really positive, which I'm thankful for. So we have been dipping our toe in the water this past week, and we've been letting a few people in here and there. It's been going very well. We do have screens at our checkouts now, which is very weird also to talk to someone through plastic, as you all know. We are asking that people wear face masks when they come into the store, as well as all of our staff. We do have hand sanitizer right as you come in the door, so we ask that you use that before and after leaving. If you are touching a fair amount of things, we ask that you put them in bins so that we can leave them for 24 hours before we reshelve them. This was advice given to us by a doctor that had been in the store, and she basically said, in a case like ours, apparently the virus doesn't stay on paper for as long as some other substance or, sorry, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Surfaces, thank you. It's early for me. Okay, so it doesn't stay as long on paper as some other surfaces. So if you leave it for 24 hours, it should have left by that time or disappeared from that area, and we shouldn't have to worry about it as much. So those are our basic kind of ground rules with everything. We still want people to be able to browse. We still want people to enjoy everything that we have in the store. So as of this week, the Merchants of Hudson are doing their annual sidewalk sales. So we will have things outside, which is a whole nother thing that worries me. You can't even believe the number of things that keep me up at night, but we will be outside. We did experiment last weekend with an author out front in front of the store, which was really well received. So we'll be trying to do that as well, just to get a little bit more normalcy in our world and still be able to get local authors the exposure that they need, and just kind of help people feel a little bit like things are getting back to how they were for a minute. So that's basically what I have. Marilyn asked me to bring 1 or 2 books this morning that I'm really enjoying right now. And at her request, we do have, hopefully you can see it, The Deacon King Kong by James McBride. I know that she has read this and really enjoyed it. It was a big book that came out this spring. It's basically set in the late 1960s. It's about a deacon at an inner city community in Brooklyn who one day kills the known drug dealer in town for, as you can imagine, various reasons. And it's about the people that witnessed it and what happens afterwards. The other one I want to talk about real quick is Daughters of Eerietown by Connie Schultz. This is her first work of fiction. It is just fantastic. I couldn't put it down, gave it to my mom. She's been doing virtual events around the area. There's one coming up at the Stowe Library in the next couple weeks here, maybe even that last week of the month. So if you want to see her, this is just a really great read. So I brought a couple books, and thank you all for wonderful to see everyone. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Jennifer Howard.
I'm very encouraged by these results. I think it shows that they're on the right track with this vaccine, and also really exciting that there are many other vaccine trials going on all across the world.
The trial included 45.
Okay, well, thank you, Kate. I think we've picked up a little background noise there, but nonetheless, we really appreciate you sharing something going on Main Street. Next, if Chris Barker could unmute herself, we'd like to get a little update as to where we are in regard to the EMS project and community support. Chris, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Marilyn. I'm happy to report that really the community of Hudson has been so generous. We have now taken in $10,551.60 in PPE deposits. And from what I understand, Heidi Schweighofer, president of EMS Outreach, she's dropped these checks off, picked up 2 more bundles of checks that she's going to bring to me at the bank today to deposit. So we're just amazed. We are amazed by the generosity of our community. And on behalf of EMS Outreach, I want to thank the community and even a number of Rotarians that have made donations towards the PPE funding for the EMS. Thank you. Can't hear you, Marilyn.
Sorry, Marilyn, I unmuted.
There we go.
Unmuted everybody, so.
This technology still, I can't hit on myself and unmute. I have to go to the bottom corner. So it's a challenge for me sometimes too. Isn't it awesome? I'm really, really excited about that. Tom Tobin, did you have a comment?
Well, I just wanted to ask, how much was that amount, Chris? How much has been raised?
$10,551.60.
Wow, that's fabulous. That's great.
But she's got more bundles coming in. And I wanted to let people know that through our Hudson Wraps program, we have contributed an additional $532 once everyone gets their money into our foundation. We're wrapping that up today. We have only 17 rolls left. And so let's sell it. Let's just be done with this project. And if anyone is interested in purchasing, please either contact Donna or let her know through the chat today that you're willing to pick up some of those. But we only have 17 left. So let's wrap up the Hudson Wraps project. We're also working on the Boy Scout Savers program. If anyone wants one of these, I hate to tell you, but I'm sweetening the pot. I know many of you have this lovely, lovely collection of Rotary theme pins. That's how you're going to get yours. You're going to buy a Hudson Boy Scout pack. Yes, and you can see Ron Strobel proudly sharing his. So today, John Adams is going to interview Father Joel Boysel, and then we're on to learning some more information about our foundation. So John Adams, please unmute yourself and let's get our program started. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Marilyn. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Rotarians. So it's my honor to visit today with fellow Rotarian Father Joe, fresh from vacation. So we'll find out where he went to vacation. Father Joe, you might need to unmute. There you go. Okay. So certainly there's some questions here, but I am looking forward to your thoughtful response on some of these questions, all of them actually, but particularly the last one. So with that, let's just start with the light questions. For those that maybe are new to Rotary, that don't really know who you are, can you share with us briefly kind of your story?
Yeah, I'm the rector, the pastor at Holy Trinity Anglican Church, which is on Atterbury Boulevard, just down from the intersection where the Chipotle and Brew Kettle is, so about 100 yards down from there. Been here as the rector since 2010, so 10 years in Hudson now that we've lived here. I married my wife, Abby. We've been married 31 years, I think that's right. And we have 4 sons, Nicholas, Zachary, Benjamin, and Dietrich. The oldest just turned 29 this year, which is really hard for me to grapple with. But then they go every 3 years down from that. So 29, 26, 23, and then 20, the youngest. Our 3 of our sons have moved out of our home. 2 of them live in Oregon. They're organic farmers near Medford, Oregon, which is really crazy. I grew up in the city. My wife grew up in the city. We've always lived in, urban or suburban environments, and here our kids grew up and become farmers. I don't know where to file that, but they're hard workers. They do a really good work, and they're concerned about the right things, about good food and healthy living and treating people well. So we're really proud of them. Our third son is he's the general manager at Three Palms Restaurant here in Hudson, and he lives in nearby Cuyahoga Falls. So we see him on a pretty regular basis. And then our youngest son, Dietrich, is a student at the University of Akron, but he also still lives at home. So he commutes to Akron and will be starting his junior year this year. So yeah, that's the family of boys. And I forgot, I left out Lucy, our Labrador, who's 12 years old. So that's us.
It's interesting. Sarah, my wife, always, as we talked about our boys, used the phrase "plant corn, get corn." And so, given your avocation, we're not really surprised to hear how responsible and concerned and good citizens your children are. So that's great. What are they growing out there?
Well, they grow organic vegetables. What they do vegetables, just people who will buy like shares or whatever, that sort of thing. They sell vegetables at farmers markets, but they also the older one especially is involved in seed business. The seed is actually more valuable than the fruit or the vegetable itself. So they because in order for a seed to be certified organic, it has to come, you have to sort of trace its lineage, I guess. And so they grow these vegetables and then they break them down for the seed and then sell the seed. And so they've developed several different seed contracts to sell organic seed to various distributors.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So when did you tell us about your trip to Rotary? What brought you to Rotary? How long have you been a Rotarian? And is there a specific area of the Rotary that you particularly find joy in?
Yeah, well, I came to Rotary. Phil Warburton, who just moved to Georgia. Phil was a member of my parish when I arrived, and he was a Rotarian, and so he encouraged me to join. And so I began as a member of the Rotary in 2011. So I guess I've been here like 9 years as a Rotarian. Rotary 2011, Phil Warburton, and I think it's just the camaraderie, the sense of doing good in the community, to know people who are in, different backgrounds, either different faith traditions or no faith tradition. That's not really part of the gathering, but the doing good and to be part of the broader sense of the community, to know a little better about what's going on in schools and what's going on in local businesses and what's going on in terms of civic responsibility and duty and those sorts of things. So that's what Rotary feeds me as far as.
Is there a particular area that with Rotary's many varied interests, is there a particular area or event that you really are drawn to?
Well, I really, the work of the gala, I know that I don't work as hard as others do at it, but that the results, the reason why we do it, and these causes, especially the helping out with pediatric cardiology in Haiti, is a super good work. And so, I really, I'm always thrilled about the gala and the sorts of things that we accomplish together through that event.
Great. So let's move on to our third question. Certainly with the pandemic, I've been thinking of ways that people have grown, that literally they would say that they're a different or better person. And I'm not talking about the COVID-15 that we all joke about, but literally would you say, gosh, as a result of this amazing event in our world's history, I'm a better person today than I was at the beginning of it. What area would you say, or is there an area that you would say you're a better person as a result of the pandemic?
I think I'm more reflective. I mean, just by nature of being a clergyman, you tend to be a reflective person anyway. I mean, contemplation is sort of a part of the warp and woof of our world. But I'm more reflective about things that maybe that you had not really been reflective about how important it is to shake somebody's hand, about the value of what it is to hug somebody, to be at a table and to share a meal with people, how, you just took that for granted. And even, at first when my children, my son Benjamin would come over, because he doesn't live with us, he was worried about his mom and his dad, so he'd come over, but he would just, hey, I'm dropping some stuff off, stay up there. I'll talk to you from the stairwell or whatever. And that was really weird. To see how, how difficult that was. And it was difficult because those relationships are so valuable. So I think that's it. The issue of human connection, and realizing just afresh how important it is and how we can't live without it. I have to be, I try to be very careful and responsible about, not participating in any sort of germ spreading, but also as a priest, I've had people who've lost loved ones, and I've had to do funerals during this time. And, just last week, I'm going to hug this widow. It might be a risk, but it's a risk we're taking. Not everybody, not all the time, but sometimes you have to, live dangerously, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that is really the point. I mean, I don't, as a clergyman, as a priest, as somebody who lives and thinks theologically all the time, I understood, and I already thought I valued people. I think I just value them more and value relationships more. Yeah.
Given your profession and calling, I'm particularly excited about asking you for your input on our last question here. That I phrased the question, pearls of wisdom that you'd want to share with future generations. If somebody found your journal 100 years from now, they would find these on these pages in your journal around this time, that these would be words of wisdom that you'd want to pass on, either involving the pandemic or particularly this time of social unrest. And I realize there's risk in that. And so I've certainly asked people, if they don't want to talk on one, to pick the other. But what would your input be as a priest in response to that question?
Well, I think they both sort of feed together in a way. I mean, the sense of social frustration about racial tension has been something that rightfully has been bothering, especially people of color, for a while. The fact that we were living in this pressure cooker of quarantine and isolation, I think, made that frustration come out at a really much more, vocal way, a much more demonstrative way. And somebody, I was talking with them not too long ago, and I wasn't really justifying what's going on in terms of especially the destructive kind of aspects. But I said, if you could imagine a woman who was regularly, smacked around, belittled by her husband, treated poorly year after year after year. And one day in the kitchen, she just threw a plate on the floor and just started breaking plates. It's not okay to break plates. It's not okay to throw things around the kitchen. But at the same time, you might say, it's somewhat understandable. I mean, sometimes some plates need to be broken. I think that's what's kind of going on in the country right now. There's people are they're breaking a few plates. Hopefully, cooler heads will prevail and there'll be a way forward. I hope there is. But I think that's the moment that we're in. there's a lot of pressure from isolation and the difficulties that we're facing with everything being taken away in a way, and no entertainment, no real outlets for fun, and so all of that I think kind of brought about a perfect storm. All of that said, pearls of wisdom in terms, I think that we should remember how highly politicized our world is, and we're not new. I mean, I love to read history. You can read 19th century politics, every bit as brutal, every bit as divisive, every bit as mudslinging. So this is nothing new to the American experience, what we're living in now. That said, we can't, you can't digest 7 hours of cable news every day and not think that you're going to be unaffected by that. News media is not peddling information. They are in the entertainment business. They're trying to get you. So they either want you to be afraid or they want you to be angry. They want to drive emotion. And because emotion will keep you coming back, and it'll keep you watching commercials for whatever it is they're selling, some vitamin or Depends or whatever it is they're selling, keep you watching this over and over and over again. And they just keep saying the same things until they then get repeated now because everybody else has their own megaphone through social media. And we become very hostile towards one another. And so we talk past one another. People don't listen because they can't listen. They've been programmed not to. My advice would be pull back from media a lot. It probably could catch, the 10 stories you need in the first 10 minutes or whatever of a day and move on. Read better things. Read the books that Kate was talking about. Read scripture, from whatever tradition you're in. Find good stuff to fill our minds with, because what we're doing right now, I think in a large part in our society is we're listening to all the wrong voices, and they're creating a real powder keg of hostility. It was sort of backtracking to what I was saying earlier, that how important relationships are. They are important, and it's not so important that everybody thinks the same way or has the same opinions. It's important that we love one another and treat one another with kindness and with dignity. That's my feel.
We all are better because of listening to you this morning. I mean, those are just great messages there that I just was really excited. You accepted the invitation to speak with us this morning. And I'm really glad, quite honestly, that you're the only person that I'm interviewing today, so that your message stands out apart from everything else maybe that we do today. And I think if we all go from this meeting and just live your message, we're all going to be better Rotarians as a result of it. So thank you very much for the time that you share with us. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Marilyn. Thank you, Father Joe.
Mm-hmm.
And we're back. Today we're also spending some time focusing on our foundation, the Hudson Rotary Foundation. We are so fortunate to have had wise and loyal people set up something like this for our club. We're very unusual, quite frankly, as a club of this size to have a foundation. And it is a wonderful, wonderful thing for us. So I've asked Matt LaFountain to explain who's working with him on the foundation and acknowledge the people who have recently left. So Matt, please unmute yourself. Let's hear about the foundation. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Marilyn. Hopefully you guys can all hear me. I do appreciate the time. I do want to, give an update on the foundation and give a couple thank yous out there. Specifically want to thank the board members that have served in the past and have left this year. I doubt Phil Warburton is on the meeting right now, but Phil had led our planned giving charge for years, and in his term, As he left the club, he's left his post at the foundation. Lynn Zupp, who I can't even guess how many years was in charge of making sure we all knew where we were supposed to be and took care of the minutes and things of that nature. And George Snyder also, who has led our investment policy committee for years. All three of these Rotarians have served for extended periods of time, and I really wanted to thank them for that service. In addition, you know, we've got, and before I guess I get into that, I did want to thank the Rotarians who are joining us this year as trustees. Jane Howington, Catherine Sines, and Kelly Brennan all have agreed to serve on the foundation. Kelly's also agreed to be our secretary. And I do want to thank the board members, or the officers, I should say. Doug McDowell, who had to wear 2 hats this past year as vice president and treasurer. Lynn, as I previously mentioned. And Keith Veers will be our new vice president. So we've got some changes going on with the foundation, but we're very excited about it. Yeah, I did want to say thank you to, you know, Rich Warfield, who also served on behalf of the club, and Pat Scher. So moving forward, you know, just for those who don't really know what our role is, we're just the charitable arm of the Hudson Rotarian Club. And, you know, we try to model ourselves. You know, we have 4 main categories that we try to support. Those would be youth and education. So think kind of the Boy Scouts or service learning. We've got the college scholarships, which we fund. The Hudson Rotary community. So think, you know, the food pantry, the EMS, and our international support, such as the Gift of Life. And we work closely with the club. You know, the Rotary Club is really what generates all the incoming revenue that we can disperse through the gala, through the flower sales, things like that. And we work in combination. Not only does our foundation approve grants, but so does the board at the Hudson Rotary Club. So we're working together to make sure we're supporting our local community. You know, this year has been a challenge. Typically, our budget of money coming in is, you know, we were budgeting $55,000 to $60,000 of inflow of income for this past year. And I think our revenue without the gala and things like that was under 10,000. You know, we still managed to do 30,000 or so in donations this year, and we're working on our budget for the following year. But it's been a challenge, and we have to move forward contemplating whether we're going to have a gala for 2020-21 year. Just to give people an idea of how powerful our giving has been, we are approaching $800,000 of grants and donations that we've made since the foundation started. We're just shy of that number. So, you know, this is the accumulation of the Rotary Club's generosity and hard work. We do have an endowment fund of just under $250,000 that is helping to subsidize some of our expenses. And, you know, the foundation members have been good stewards of that money. Fortunately, even with the volatility we've experienced this year, our money has been pretty stable. So I know that, I'm not sure, Doug, Richard, did you want to add additional comments in regards to the foundation?
I was going to go into a couple of examples when you're finished, Matt, or when Doug is finished. You know, examples of where the money goes.
Yeah, I think that'd be perfect, Richard. Why don't you share a couple of things we're working on?
Okay. What happens on the procedure of the grants is that the grants can come in either by mail or email or hand delivered. And then the grant committee chairman, that's me,
and I'm in my third year as committee chairman of the grant subcommittee of the foundation. So I would receive the grant, read it, and then send it to the other members of our committee, who include Matt LaFountain, Dan Williams, new is Jane Howington, and John Hopkins. And the five of us consider, is the grant application yay or nay? Is it important? And then we look at the amount requested and then make a recommendation. Once that's done, then I send a message to our club president, Marilyn in this case, and Marilyn will bring it to the club board meeting, and then they would discuss it, and if they approve it with a recommendation of the amount, and then it comes back to the foundation board for a final vote. So it's a very rigorous process. It does take a little bit of time, but it gives us good control over where the money is spent and how much would be spent. Right now we have 4 new applications that are in the process. One is the Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad that was brought to us by George Schneider. Case Barlow Farm for a deck and railing. Service Learning, which is a repeat item, for $1,000. And there was a new program called A Kid Again, which looks sort of like a Make-A-Wish Foundation, but local Northeast Ohio. So what are some of the examples of where the money goes? Matt gave you some broad areas where it goes, but here's some examples from the last 2 years that I personally experienced. If you look at health and safety, Hudson EMS with the AED units, the PPE program, the 90-day supply that Chris Barker already talked about, the Are You OK outreach program that was funded a couple of years ago, where phone calls go out to senior citizens in town. Safe Hudson, the Gift of Life with the Akron Children's Hospital for the heart surgeries. And that's about $20,000 for those health and safety items. For the schools, that's probably a major part of what we do. The Uncharted Waters, the program for the seniors and what they need to know. The college scholarships is the single biggest one at $15,000 per year. Hudson High School extracurricular clubs, Hudson Service Learning for the high school, honors biology, a kindergarten 3D printer, and school literacy programs, and that's all $27,000. The Scouts, the BSA Camp Manitowoc, Troop 321, and the cabin restoration. And that's, the cabin restoration is just a partial expenditure so far. All that would add up to about $8,000. And then many community projects like Hudson Job Search, HCTV, Music from the Western Reserve, preservation of the Case Barlow Farm, Hattie Larlam Special Olympics in Ohio, Hudson Library, Hudson Bandstand, Hudson Players, Habitat for Humanity, Hurricane Relief, and the St. Vincent de Paul. And that's about $7,000. So you can see we're doing a lot of good work in the community and in the schools, and it's ongoing. And as Matt said, it's a real challenge this year. Many worthwhile applications are coming in, but we have to make some tough decisions about which ones to accept and how much can we afford to spend. Are there any questions out there? Okay, that's it for me.
Hey, Matt.
Yes.
I'll take off a couple minutes from Richard. Once the process is done, Richard will send me an email with the appropriate approvals, and I'll cut a check and attach a letter where appropriate to the organization we're donating the money. as treasurer, my primary job is I bring the money in, deposit in the bank, account for it. And as I said, I'm the income and disbursement side. I do not get involved in the investments. That's an entirely different organization. So I'm pretty much managing the checking account. I would say I work very closely with Warfield and Company. They are our accountants. What I do on a day in, day out basis is I just put a spreadsheet together, and on one column I have receipts and one column I have disbursements, and that's the input I give to Rich and Michelle, and Michelle uses QuickBooks to come up with a quote unquote a balance sheet and a profit and loss. What we did about 2 years ago is we realized that we were depending upon a software pack. My nightmare from the corporate world, we were sitting on using a piece of software that was no longer supported, sitting on a PC that was ready to die any day. So we made that transition over to Rich's system with QuickBooks. I provide the detail to Michelle, and she generates the appropriate reports and filings with the state. What I've done in the last couple of years is all the backup for the receipts and the disbursements is now done in PDF form and filed on my computer and on a cloud website, so I have complete backup. I'm going to use this, Matt, as an opportunity to make an advertisement here. According to our bylaws of the foundation, I am an officer, as treasurer, I am an officer of the foundation, and I am limited to 4 terms on the foundation. So I wanted to mention that I am now in my 4th year, which means we will need a new treasurer come the middle of next year, which I think is an excellent opportunity for somebody in the club that wants to get involved in learning about the foundation and the workings. I became treasurer about 2 years into my tenure and I've learned so much and enjoy working with these people. So if anybody out there, we're going to come and find you. But we would like to get somebody that really wants to put their feet in, because it really, it really is not an overwhelming position. I have a feeling that in the days of the gala before we used gesture, I can imagine this position must have been a nightmare, because if you remember the night of the gala, it's my understanding, I don't believe Visa, the credit cards were used. And I think you picked something up and you gave a check or cash, and heaven knows how late at night the poor treasurer and the gala staff were there. Yeah. Now, all I do is get deposits in the bank from gesture, and there we go. So it's really not an overwhelming position. And like so many things in our club, you can get so much more out of it than you're required to put into it. So that's an advertisement on for our next one. And I also want to put my 2 cents in to encourage all members of the Hudson Rotary to, if you haven't already, to donate for our PPE project. I must say that I have a vested interest in that. I helped EMS draft the grant request, and given the town and our Rotary response to the food pantry drive, I'm not at all surprised that we're going to, I firmly believe we're going to approach that 25,000 that we need. So I don't care if you send the check directly to AMS, you send it to me, I'll be happy to process it. But whatever way it gets there. So that's what I do. I bring the money in, I account for it, I disperse it, and I depend upon a lot of other people to do a lot of work. That's it.
Hey, Matt, can I ask a question, please? This is Phil Tobin here. Given the fact you have money coming in from various activities that we sponsor, and you have the endowment, how do you determine how much you're going to give away in a particular year, and where do you see that money coming from? I mean, you have various sources. you establish a budget, do you come up with a dollar amount that you'd like to give? And how do you arrive at what that dollar amount is?
Well, Phil, historically, we've looked at, estimating what we might bring in from the gala and other fundraisers.
Yep.
In addition, looking at, potential income off the investment, so interest and dividends, things of that nature. I mean, that's been our historical model. We were fortunate enough to, we didn't contemplate a pandemic, obviously, going into this, but we did contemplate what if we had a year where the gala didn't do well and things of that nature. So we've set aside, some rainy day funds that aren't necessarily in the endowment, but rather just set aside for years where we might have a shortfall. So we've relied on that to some degree. Budgeting forward, you're asking a fantastic question. The only reason the budget's not done, Phil, is I'm still contemplating that exact question. Where is the money going from? We're trying to balance a period of time where there's an extreme need with a period of time where we're not able to generate the normal revenue.
Yes.
So, I guess it'd be a good time for me to appeal to our Rotary members that, if there are individual items you'd like to support, please do that. If you want to support our foundation, please consider writing a check. Because a question right now is, Richard had mentioned we fund typically 15,000 of scholarships, and last year that number was 18,000. We had budgeted for an increase in that. That's an item that I'm sitting here right now trying to figure out if we're going to be able to afford. And as I don't remember if it was Richard or Doug said that the request we get, there's not one that I can remember in recent history that isn't worthy. And it's a bigger struggle right now balancing that. I would love to support all the grant requests we get. So Phil, you're asking a great question, and I can tell you how I've done it historically, or how we've done it historically, but the reality is, without knowing if we're even going to have a gala this year, I don't have a perfect answer.
Matt, may I ask you, when you distribute money and you distribute income off the endowment, you must isolate that as income and just spend that. You never spend the endowment, is that correct? You sort of hold tight on the endowment?
Yeah. Truthfully, we've been blessed in this way. So we put together a budget every year of what we think the revenue is going to be, and then we budget for the grants. And we've done, we're always right there as far as what we budget for the grants and scholarships. This year we were low because we didn't have the gala. The reality is, from the generosity of members, of the hard work of the gala, even though we have budgeted to use, say, interest and dividends off of the principal in the endowment, we haven't had to touch it because there's always a little bit more from the gala than we're expecting, a little bit more generosity from our members. So we not, even though we have that included in the budget, we have not had to use it.
The experience of endowments over the years has been just that. But that's changing quite a bit recently. And in essence, what it says is that you consider distributions available for grant making to come as a percentage of the endowment, whether it's earned or not. And so for that reason, maybe you and I can have a discussion online about this, and perhaps maybe I can, we can have an interesting discussion about how you might be able to capitalize on that endowment when you actually.
The reality is, in our bylaws, there's some pretty strict rules about using endowment.
Yes.
And, using the principal.
Right.
So.
That would be an obstacle, but that obstacle has been overcome by many organizations. The practice is now that you basically use the endowment as a percentage of the endowment for your grant making, whether it's earned or not.
Well, Phil, you're tapping into an argument. I've been on the foundation board, I don't know, 6 years and 5 years maybe. And that's an argument we've come to head annually for 5 years. So, it's something we're working on.
Okay. Okay.
We trust our foundation. We've got excellent people working with that. And I think we'll come to a great resolution.
Yeah.
We're
Fine.
getting very close on time, so I'm going to pull you all back for just a little bit. Thank you very much, John, for bringing this program forward. And next week, we'll be back to interviewing 3 additional Rotarians. Our 2020 Rotarian of the Year, Donna Kastner, as well as past presidents Allison Feaster and Tom Page. So the e-bulletin that you received this week from me via Club Runner is how my future communications will be working. I wanted to take just a few seconds to point out that Jay Yard has again done an excellent job. This was on the front page of the Hudson Hub, showcasing our 2020 award winners that were featured at our June 24th meeting. And so finally, I'm going to close this out by bringing us back to what I always do, this day in history. In 1799, the Rosetta Stone is found in the Egyptian village of Rosetta by French Captain Pierre-Francois Bouchard during the Napoleon Egyptian campaign. I wasn't aware that that was why it was named that. In 1978, at the British Open men's golf tournament at St. Andrews in Scotland, Ohio native Jack Nicklaus completed his 3rd career Grand Slam, winning by 2 strokes over Ben Crenshaw and Ray Floyd. And lastly, in 2006, Twitter was launched, and we all might come to regret that event. So good morning. Thank you to our special guests today, Gail Royster. It was wonderful to see you online. So have a great day. Enjoy the weather, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.